Tasha Bloom wanted closure. Melissa Turner wanted silence. When love turned into obsession, only one of them would survive to tell the story, and the other's car would become the key to unlocking a chilling secret hidden in suburbia. Melissa Turner appeared to have it all. In the quiet, tree-lined streets of East Ridge, Georgia, she stood out as the perfect wife and mother. Neighbors often waved as she stepped out of her white-paneled house, her 2 children clinging to her hands, her smile warm and effortless. Her husband, Craig, was well known in the community, a successful realtor with polished manners and a well-kept lawn. Together, they looked like the couple others envied. Their life, carefully arranged and tightly maintained, was something people admired from afar. But Melissa was not the woman they thought she was. Behind the polite greetings and picture-perfect family photos, Melissa was living a life no one suspected. Her days were filled with chores, errands, and appointments at the EHI, dental clinic, where she worked part-time. But her nights had a very different rhythm. They belonged to someone else. For nearly a year, Melissa had been engaged in an affair. Not with a man, but with a woman named Tasha Bloom. Tasha was younger, bold, and unafraid of being seen. She worked as a bartender in a nearby city and lived a life very different from Melissa's structured routine. Tasha drove a flashy blue sports car and wore leather jackets and loud perfume. She was spontaneous, fiery, and lived in the moment. Melissa met her at the gym, and the attraction was immediate. What began as casual conversations quickly became flirtation. Soon, Melissa was sneaking out under the excuse of late-night workouts, her gym bag hiding more than just running shoes. Tasha made her feel alive in a way her marriage hadn't for years. With her, Melissa wasn't a wife or a mother. She was free. Their affair escalated quickly. Tasha, smitten and trusting, gave Melissa a key to her apartment. She even let Melissa borrow her car on weekends, sometimes to run errands, other times just for the thrill of driving something fast and loud. Melissa had a special fondness for that car. She said it made her feel powerful, untouchable. She'd park it blocks away from home just in case Craig noticed, and walk the rest of the way with a secret smile on her face. Tasha, meanwhile, believed she had something real. Melissa told her she was planning to leave Craig, that the marriage was over in all but name. She claimed the only reason she stayed was for her children's sake, and that soon they could be together openly. Tasha held on to that promise, believing in a future that was never meant to come, but Melissa was never going to leave her husband. Her world depended on appearances, and in East Ridge, secrets didn't stay secret forever. She knew the risks. If her affair was discovered, it would destroy her family, her image, and everything she had worked to maintain. Yet the double life continued, tangled and messy, with lies stacking higher each day. As time passed, Tasha grew impatient. She started asking questions, pushing for answers. She wanted more than weekends and whispered promises. She wanted Melissa to follow through. Melissa, growing uneasy, began pulling away. She stopped staying overnight. She stopped borrowing the car. She became cold, distant, almost cruel. Tasha didn't take it well. Friends said she had started drinking more, texting Melissa constantly, showing up unannounced. She told people she was going to confront her once and for all, to demand the truth. She even hinted that if Melissa didn't choose her, she'd tell Craig everything. Then, in mid-October, she disappeared. No goodbye, no text, no calls, Her apartment stood quiet. Her phone went unanswered, and her friends grew worried. The last confirmed sighting of her was late at night, just a few streets from Melissa's home. When police got involved, Melissa told them the affair had ended months ago. She hadn't spoken to Tasha recently, she claimed, and had no idea where she might have gone. It was a clean story, but something didn't sit right. Investigators began to dig deeper, asking questions Melissa never thought she'd have to answer. And through it all, one detail stood out: the sleek blue sports car that no one had seen since Tasha vanished, except, allegedly, parked inside Melissa's garage. The day Tasha Bloom was officially reported missing, the East Ridge Police Department treated it as just another routine disappearance. Adults had the right to go off the grid, after all. But as the hours turned into days, and no one heard from her, not friends, not co-workers, not even her mother, it became clear something was wrong. Tasha wasn't the kind of person to vanish without notice. She was social, connected, and active online. Her absence was more than strange. It was alarming. Tasha's mother, Gloria Bloom, who lived in Atlanta, was the first to raise the alarm. She hadn't received her usual Sunday phone call and knew something was off. Tasha never skipped their weekly chats. When repeated calls went unanswered and messages remained unread, Gloria drove to her daughter's apartment herself. The door was locked. Mail had piled up, the lights were off, and the windows were dark. There was no sign of forced entry, but the air inside was stale and heavy, as if no one had been there in days. Police entered and conducted a basic welfare check. Her phone was gone, her wallet was missing. But oddly, her overnight bag, makeup, kit, and several personal items she never left home without were still there. Her clothes hung neatly in the closet. Her bed was made. The fridge, half-stocked, held fresh groceries dated just 2 days before her disappearance. Then there was the car, the iconic blue sports car that she adored, nowhere to be found. It didn't take long for police to learn about the affair. Tasha's friends were quick to mention Melissa Turner's name. Several of them had met Melissa, seen the two women together, and knew that their relationship had once been intense. They said Tasha had been deeply in love, but increasingly anxious. She had grown suspicious and heartbroken. She had spoken about being strung along and lied to. One friend even recalled her saying, "If something happens to me, it'll be because of her." With Melissa now a person of interest, investigators visited her home. She greeted them politely, holding her youngest child on her hip, and answered questions without hesitation. She said she and Tasha had ended their relationship months ago and had not spoken since. According to her, she had no idea Tasha was even missing. But the officers noticed something peculiar. Parked in Melissa's driveway was a car under a beige tarp. When asked about it, she claimed it was her cousin's vehicle and that it had been there for a few days. The officers left without inspecting it further, but they logged the visit and reported it to detectives. 2 days later, that same car was seen at a grocery store parking lot. Surveillance cameras captured Melissa driving it. The license plate matched Tasha's registration. The footage showed Melissa calmly loading groceries into the trunk, chatting with a stranger, and pulling away without concern. When confronted with the footage, Melissa's story changed. She now claimed that Tasha had given her the car as a gift before leaving town. She said the two had parted on friendly terms, and that Tasha wanted her to have something to remember her by. But when asked for a title or any proof of transfer, she had nothing to offer. No paperwork, no text messages, not even a note. The lies were stacking up fast, and the contradictions were impossible to ignore. Melissa said she hadn't spoken to Tasha in months, yet now she claimed to have received a car from her just days ago. Her neighbors, too, were beginning to talk. One reported seeing Melissa cleaning the car late at night. Another said she had spotted Melissa moving something heavy from the trunk into the garage the night after Tasha vanished. Detectives returned to Melissa's home with more questions, but this time she refused to speak. She said she had nothing more to say and referred them to her attorney. The investigation hit a wall, but the suspicion only deepened. Police couldn't ignore the growing mountain of inconsistencies. What started as a missing persons case was beginning to look like something much darker. The car was real, the relationship was real, and now there was every reason to believe that Melissa Turner wasn't just hiding a lover. She might be hiding a crime. The investigation took a sharp turn once detectives obtained a warrant to access Tasha Bloom's phone records. Her carrier provided detailed logs of her messages, calls, and GPS activity. What they found in those digital breadcrumbs painted a chilling timeline in the days leading up to her disappearance. Her final phone activity was on a Thursday night, just after 11:30 p.m. The signal had pinged off a cell tower near Melissa Turner's neighborhood, narrowing down her last known location to within a 2-block radius of Melissa's home. Further, analysis revealed a disturbing shift in tone in the messages Tasha had been sending Melissa during the last week of her life. At first, the texts were full of questions and confusion. Tasha asked why Melissa had stopped replying, why she was being ignored, and if everything had been a lie. As days passed without answers, the messages turned desperate, then angry. Tasha wrote that she felt used, that she wasn't going to stay quiet anymore, and that she was done playing games. The very last message from her phone read simply, "I'm coming over. We're ending this now." That message was time-stamped at 10:47 p.m. Police now had a motive. Tasha had gone to confront Melissa on the night she vanished. The next logical step was to secure another search warrant, this time to inspect Melissa's home more thoroughly, including her garage and vehicle. When investigators returned to the Turner residence, they found Melissa distant and evasive. She stood silently while officers searched her property. The interior of the house appeared clean, almost too clean. Detectives noted the faint smell of bleach in the laundry room. In the garage, they located Tasha's blue sports car, now stripped of personal items and freshly detailed. The floor beneath the vehicle had recently been power washed, and a section of drywall near the tool rack showed signs of repair. In the trunk of the car, officers found a small silver earring. It was a single stud with a turquoise stone. When shown to Tasha's mother, she immediately identified it as part of a pair she had given Tasha for her 25th birthday. The other earring was never found. Despite the find, the earring alone didn't prove a crime. There was no blood, no weapon, no signs of violence. But the discovery raised enough concern to keep the investigation moving forward. The biggest breakthrough came from digital forensics. Police obtained Tasha's iCloud data, which included voice memos and photos. Among them was a short audio clip recorded 3 weeks before she vanished. In it, Tasha expressed fear, noting that Melissa had become cold and unpredictable. She mentioned being threatened and said that if anything happened to her, Melissa would know why. Still, without a body, prosecutors couldn't file murder charges. Suspicion wasn't enough. What they needed was physical evidence or a confession. something undeniable. While the official investigation continued quietly, whispers spread through East Ridge. Some neighbors said they no longer saw Melissa walking her kids to school. Others claimed she started keeping the blinds shut at all hours. Her demeanor changed. Once warm and outgoing, she became reclusive and visibly nervous. The community that once admired her now watched her closely. Then came another strange twist. A woman who lived down the street approached police with a tip. On the night Tasha disappeared, she had noticed Melissa wheeling a large suitcase from the garage to her SUV. It was nearly midnight. She hadn't thought much of it until days later, when the news of the missing woman reached her. The suitcase was never found. As each detail emerged, the portrait of Melissa Turner shifted. She was no longer seen as the graceful suburban mom with a hidden romance. She became the prime suspect in a disturbing mystery. The missing car, the angry messages, the late-night confrontation, all of it pointed toward a tragic conclusion. Yet with no body, no confession, and no eyewitnesses, authorities still couldn't bring the case to court. They watched, waited, and hoped that Melissa would slip, or that nature would uncover what she had tried to bury. Months passed, and the case began to grow cold. Despite the early momentum, investigators had hit a frustrating wall. The leads had slowed, the media attention faded, and Melissa Turner was no longer under active surveillance. She continued to live in her East Ridge home, driving the same blue sports car, going about her routine like nothing had happened. Tasha Bloom remained missing, her loved ones clinging to fading hope. But one small detail reignited the entire investigation. A local sanitation worker at the regional landfill facility contacted police after seeing a news segment about Tasha's disappearance. He remembered a burned, partially intact notebook page that had stood out in a batch of incinerated waste a few months earlier. It had been retrieved from a separate ash container that sometimes held unprocessed refuse, often from compacted trash bags collected just before the daily burn cycle. The worker didn't know it then, but the note he briefly saw had a name on it, Tasha. The police returned to the landfill and began combing through several ash bins. It was a long shot, but investigators were desperate. After 2 days, they recovered a scorched slip of paper, half crumbled and blackened, buried beneath layers of soot. Parts of it were unreadable, the ink faded and paper brittle, but forensic specialists were able to piece together several lines. One of them read, "I trusted you when I shouldn't have." Another said, "If I disappear, it's because—" The sentence cut off at the burn line. Though not a smoking gun, the note was clearly written in Tasha's handwriting, confirmed through samples from her journals and cards sent to family. It added a new dimension to the case. It hinted at fear, betrayal, and a growing sense of danger in her final days. More importantly, it pointed to Melissa as someone Tasha didn't just love, but feared. Then, just as investigators began to review the evidence with renewed urgency, another key witness emerged. A neighbor named Helen Price came forward with something she had kept to herself. On the night Tasha vanished, she saw Melissa at a gas station on the edge of town. It was just after midnight. Melissa had pulled up alone, wearing gloves despite the warm night, and was seen dumping a heavy trash bag into a commercial dumpster. Helen had thought it was odd but not serious, until she saw Melissa's face on the news weeks later. Detectives obtained security footage from the gas station, and there she was, Melissa Turner, wearing a hoodie, dark pants, and disposable gloves, dragging a trash bag into the dumpster and leaving without buying gas or going inside. When police searched the waste collection route from that night, they learned that the dumpster's contents had already been collected and burned. The pieces of the puzzle were starting to come together. While there was still no direct proof of murder, the timeline painted a damning picture. Tasha had gone to confront Melissa that night. She was never seen again. Melissa was caught driving her car, dumping suspicious trash, and linked to a handwritten note hinting at foul play. There was a mounting pile of circumstantial evidence that all pointed to one conclusion. Still, Melissa continued to deny any involvement. Through her lawyer, she maintained that Tasha had left town voluntarily, giving her the car as a parting gesture. She insisted she had no idea what had happened to her former lover and claimed the note was planted to frame her. Authorities were at a crossroads. Without a body, the chances of securing a conviction were slim. Prosecutors debated whether to file charges or continue waiting. The community grew restless. Online forums lit up with theories. Some believed Melissa had an accomplice. Others thought she had buried Tasha in the dense woods outside town. Some suggested she had dismembered the body and destroyed all evidence. Everyone had questions, but no one had answers. Then, nearly 7 months after Tasha vanished, a hiker stumbled across a shallow grave near the Dalton County line, deep within a secluded wooded area. The ground was disturbed, uneven, and covered in leaves. Inside, wrapped in a tarp and badly decomposed, was the body of a woman. A silver bracelet engraved with Tasha B. still clung to her wrist. The discovery of the shallow grave shifted the case from speculation to certainty. The medical examiner confirmed the identity of the body as Tasha Bloom through dental records. Her cause of death was blunt force trauma to the head, with signs of asphyxiation. The condition of her remains suggested she had been buried within 24 hours of her disappearance. The blue tarp used to wrap her body had fibers that matched a torn section found in Melissa Turner's garage. Investigators now had physical proof connecting Melissa to the crime. The media swarmed the small Georgia town. Headlines called it a twisted love triangle turned deadly. Tasha's mother, Gloria, wept openly at a televised press conference, pleading for justice. For the first time in months, public pressure reached a boiling point. Local law enforcement, under scrutiny for the delay in pressing charges, acted swiftly. Melissa Turner was arrested at her home just 3 days after the body was found. She was charged with first-degree murder, obstruction of justice, and abuse of a corpse. Officers reported that Melissa showed no emotion as she was taken into custody. Neighbors stood in silence as the woman they had once admired was led away in handcuffs. The trial began 6 months later. Prosecutors laid out a clear timeline. Tasha arrived at Melissa's home the night she disappeared, determined to confront her. Investigators believed an argument escalated into violence. In a panic, Melissa struck Tasha with a blunt object, likely a fireplace poker, which was never recovered, and smothered her to stop her from screaming. Then, after hiding the body in the garage overnight, she borrowed a tarp, placed the remains in the trunk, and drove out to the secluded wooded area to bury her. They presented phone records, surveillance footage, the handwritten note, and the earring found in the trunk. Forensic analysis revealed DNA on the tarp matching Tasha. The prosecution argued that Melissa's motive was self-preservation. She didn't want to lose her family, her reputation, or the perfect life she had built. Tasha had become a threat, a person who could expose everything. Melissa's defense tried to cast doubt. They pointed to the lack of eyewitnesses and the absence of the murder weapon. They claimed the relationship had ended long before Tasha disappeared, and that the car had been given to her willingly. The defense argued that Melissa had panicked after discovering Tasha dead from an accidental fall, choosing to bury the body instead of reporting it out of fear. But the jury didn't buy it. After a tense 3-week trial, the verdict was delivered. Guilty on all counts. Melissa Turner was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The courtroom was packed, and when the sentence was read aloud, Tasha's mother closed her eyes, finally able to breathe. The town of East Ridge struggled to reconcile the truth. The image of Melissa Turner, the perfect suburban wife, the doting mother, the neighborhood role model, was shattered forever. Her story became a cautionary tale about secrets, deception, and the lengths people go to protect a lie. The blue sports car, once a symbol of freedom and rebellion, was now locked away in an evidence lot, its glossy paint dulled under layers of dust. The aftermath rippled through the community. Craig Turner filed for divorce, citing emotional trauma and irreparable harm. Their children were placed in the care of relatives, shielded from the media storm. The house on Maplewood Drive was eventually sold at auction. No one wanted to live where the story had begun. In the end, justice was served, but the scars remained. Tasha's story became a sobering reminder that danger can sometimes wear a familiar face. Behind closed doors, in quiet neighborhoods, among manicured lawns and friendly smiles, darkness can fester unnoticed. She wants her side chick's car back. After the affair wasn't just a headline, it was a tragedy. A tale of love turned toxic, where obsession met fear, and a moment of violence ended a young life. Tasha Bloom was gone, but her voice, her warnings, and her story would never be forgotten.